Well, let's continue. I told you that for in order to tell a labor market is a single labor market, um, we need labor mobility in the short run. How short is short run? How fast should workers adjust to the um, let's say wage differences or differences in the market and move from one job to other job, basically. It is as you define it. I mean, the economists might define, for example, uh, if workers are fairly able to, I mean, in a month or so, decide to switch from one job to another job. Um, in a particular labor market, for example, in 1 month or 3 months, 3 weeks. In that case, I mean, you can define the short term in 3 weeks or 1 month. So definitions can be made by individual economists, and I mean, even when they are there, they were still made by individual economists. But a fair thing could be, I mean, to say is for any type of job, for example, a skilled job, this might be different than unskilled job. Uh, how long does it take to quit from your existing job and find a new job? Well, the easiest new job you can find. I mean, the job for which you don't need extra training, extra connections, things like that. Well, when we consider this easiest possible job, and basically, as long as a different job in a different sector or different place, different uh, uh, against place and sector, is not uh, considerably more difficult to find than or accept than this easiest job, then we might think about a labor market that is well singular. Um, for example, if you are in Istanbul, different neighborhoods, consider different neighborhoods of Istanbul, or think Cyprus, for example. In Cyprus, finding and accepting a job in Güzelyurt and finding and accepting a job in Lefkoşa, Nicosia, might not be that difficult for some person. But I mean, in that case, I mean, if finding it and accepting a job is more or less, I mean, same thing considered finding and accepting a job in Güzelyurt. In that case, we can say in at least Lefkoşa and Güzelyurt form a singular job market. But if finding and accepting a job in Antalya, for example, in Turkey, for someone in Antalya, finding and accepting a job in Antalya and let's say Adana is not at the same difficulty level. If we need more time or we need more consideration to find a job in Adana when we are living in Antalya. In that case, Adana and Antalya labor markets could be different from each other. At least there could be some barrier in the short run between them. Well, certain labor markets are connected in the long run, even though in the short run there could be different, and that connection is can be in two different ways. How long is long run in this case? How short is short run in this case? I mean, again, it depends. In some cases, this connection might require year, 2 years. In some cases, 10 years. I don't know. In some cases, 20 years. Even though 20 years is a lot of time. Again, here we can talk on the professions or the spaces. So if that connection exists, more or less the wage rates in the two markets might be similar to each other, except of course again the compensating wage differentials will again play out. Um, what what connects the two different labor markets that are in the short run different from each other? They can be connected in two ways: demand adjustment and supply adjustment. One of them is enough. You don't need both of them. Um, so, for example, this is the case when you have two different labor markets, uh, market A and market B. Let's say this is America. This is, I don't know, Britain. If in Britain the wages are lower than the wages in United States, for example, America in this case, um, in the short run, this difference might stay. In the long run, if you are able to make a demand adjustment, demand is created by the employers. Note that. That means capital is mobile between two countries. So even if workers are not able to move between two places, if capital can move, this connects those two markets in the long run. So in that sense, actually, for example, U.S. labor market and Mexican labor market might be connected to each other, even though, or Chinese labor market. There's also labor mobility between those countries, but even if there was no labor mobility, there will still be a connection. If we have just capital mobility, capital will flow to the place where the wages are lower. So in this case, it will flow from America to Britain. And as it flows, demand in the America will go down, supply in the Britain will go up, and they will meet up at a certain point, at which will be the point at which the market A and market B will have same equilibrium points. We are reaching intermarket equilibrium in this case. Demand adjustment. The supply adjustment is the case when the workers can move, and workers move from the place where the wages are low to the place where the wages are high. In this case, basically, workers move from Britain to America, which happened in the 19th century, by the way. The funny thing is, in the 19th century, also the capital moved from Britain to America. Both workers and capital moved to Britain and America, which, well, you might argue that there can be different explanations for that. One explanation could be the capital could be more the workers might be more productive in America, but same worker who moved from Britain to America would be more productive in that case, which is by itself interesting, not impossible. The country's conditions might allow this, but interesting. But it might also be possible that in America the cheap inputs are reachable, which also make America more attractive, even when labor force is more expensive. But anyway, supply adjustment is the case when the workers move from one country to another country. If that's the case, the supply in the country with low wage will shrink, supply in the country with high wage will increase, and this will actually bring the two markets equal to each other. In today's world, some of the migrant workers it's interesting because when you are looking to the migrant crisis in Europe and some people who are against accepting the migrant workers claim the people who claim to be refugees are actually, many of them are economic immigrants. Economic immigrants means there is no civil war, there is no direct violence that threatens them. For economic conditions, because life in Europe is better, they go to Europe. This is typical type of labor mobility, actually. But the point is, if you want to move from Africa to Europe through illegal means, you need to cross desert, and then you should go to on the boats. You endanger your life multiple times. If you endanger your life multiple times to reach to a country, pretty much, in my opinion, it's not that much important whether a refugee is economic refugee or a a refugee that is actually running from actual violence. Economic conditions can also kill, by the way. And if they kill, you are not able to survive, physically not able to survive, I mean, you might run from the country. In my opinion, I mean, it is understandable, at least, at the very, very least, understandable. You might still not be able to accept this person if your people are also starving, if that's the real case, but at least that should be understandable. And ideally, I believe actually, if possible, we should live in a world where this, at least the basic physical survival conditions are met in whole world. If we are economically not at the point where we can grant this to everyone, at least we should hope in an age of increasing production and productivity level, and at an age where we can control our population, this is a aim we can set, in my opinion. Anyway, let's continue. This is demand adjustment. This is supply adjustment. Again, production techniques, socioeconomic conditions, political restrictions, all of these might prevent capital and labor to move between countries. And in some cases, this mobility itself is costly, so the difference should be above a certain point to create this mobility. And if capital can move and capital is somehow coordinated and basically also able to provide some, has some monopoly power, in that case, through coordination or through being powerful, in that case, capital can also differentiate the two markets and give a lower wage in the country where it has a more bargaining power. I mean, the workers have less power to move between different regions. How capital can get, or employers can get, this higher bargaining power is also something we will look upon. Well, agriculture again, you might be a little bit bored of it. But agriculture is a case actually where an interesting case of labor mobility is played out. In fact, again, agriculture, as I said, in the United States, basically, when they designed their agricultural policies, they wanted to keep the prices of the agricultural goods low, and there are different ways to do that. Subsidizing the prices is one way, but the United States want to do this to provide the agricultural sector cheap labor force. But how do you keep the labor force cheap? Actually, agricultural labor force should get even more wage because they are seasonal labor force per hour. So you put a barrier between the agricultural labor force and the rest of the economy. What was that barrier? The people who come to the United States to do agricultural work were not able to go to other sectors. That was the barrier. And that was actually the original program in agricultural sector they created so that the agricultural companies, the plantations, could get cheap labor force so that the prices of wood will also be low. Well, what happened later is actually this cheap labor force in agriculture, in time when especially economic system is going bad, there is an economic crisis and companies are struggling to survive. Well, this cheap labor force that exists in one sector might attract also the other sectors. So other sectors might want a way to get this cheap labor force. If not through legal means, sometimes through illegal means, and in some cases also with the cooperation with the state. And an interesting case was actually experience in the United States within the fast food sector. And what happened in the fast food sector is the next thing I'm planning to talk. So see you in the next part in which we will talk on the agricultural sector. Okay, I'm finishing for